This is your one-time price. It's much more than a weekly because it's much less efficient. And here's your move-out price. Plus, you have to keep advertising to get them, so your overhead is more. These people, after you get them the first time, there's no more advertising costs. Now, how did we get such a high close ratio? Our company, for the entire time we were in business, the 20 years that I had it, is still, of course, in business, we charged no first time in charge, and we did periodic tasks starting at the second visit. But I will go through that more. Why does this work so well? Well, you have a higher close ratio and more profit, and cleaners love it. So, higher close ratio, when you are a weekly or biweekly client with my company, and most of my clients do this now too, I think all of them do it, there is no first time in fee for weekly or biweekly clients. Now, we also don't do a deep clean task, and we'll talk about that, but there's no first time in fee. So when somebody calls you and wants a weekly or biweekly service, if you're charging a first time in fee now, it's usually a couple $100. So you're maybe asking $300. We ask that same $91 that we just looked at for that 1,400 to 1,800 square foot home for a weekly client, or biweekly would be a little bit more. So we don't charge a first time in charge. Much lower price. We're quoting on the phone, no first time in fee. And then we're going to do periodic tasks. Who in the world do you think is going to win this quote? You or me? Also, your cleaners love it because they're not spending their lives doing deep cleans. There's nothing worse than a deep clean. Cleaners absolutely hate it. A repeat client is more like a wipe down. So your cleaners like their jobs more, therefore you have less attrition with your internal client, your cleaners. They stay longer. Your clients will stay longer because when your internal client turns, it seems like a few of your external clients turn. And it doesn't mean your internal clients stole them. It just means, hey, they like their cleaner. They're sick and tired of seeing new cleaners. They're going to try and find a company who doesn't have constant turnover. Not doing deep cleans for weekly and biweekly clients could make a huge difference in the number of sales you make and in the attrition of your internal client base. How does it work? So we charge no first time in additional charge for weekly and biweekly clients only. If they're less frequent than that, they have to pay more money for their service. There's no deep cleaning task done the first visit. We don't wet wipe the baseboards, we dust them. We don't wet wipe the windowsills, we dust them. We don't oil wipe the outside of the kitchen cabinets. We take off any fingerprints we'd see. But we just do a basic clean, no deep cleaning tasks at all. It does take us a little bit longer to get that built up soap scum and mildew and lime buildup out of the bathrooms. It takes a little longer in the kitchens. It takes a little longer dusting. I mean, some of them you have to feather dust and then hard dust to get all that dust out of there. But we do just the basic clean. You will make some money. On most houses, you'll make the same amount of money. But on some, your profit will be a little bit less the first time in. I've never lost money on a first time in that I can remember. I'm sure that's saying, I bet I have in 20 years. But you won't do it very often. And any differential between charging the extra $200, which is going to take you longer anyway because you're there doing all those deep cleaning tasks, I consider if I didn't make as much as I would have, it is the cost of advertising because I don't have to buy this client again. They stay with me forever and ever and ever. And if you look at this, some of you maybe heard me say this before, but I had a client who was $100 a week in the beginning when we first started the upstairs maid. I was there for 20 years. Now, I'm not taking any price increases, and believe me, they had some price increases. I think everybody went at least 20 to 30% more in that 20 years. Maybe even more than that. But let's say no price increases. Weekly client, never skipped. $100,000 that client gave me in 20 years. Yes, $100,000. Lexus car dealers would hate us if they knew we're making more money than them out of a client. Of course, they probably buy more than one Lexus. True. But that's a lot of money. Do you want to give up $100,000 for a $200 additional charge the first time in? Of which, again, remember, that's not all profit because you got to do those tasks. I don't have to do those tasks. So I have a higher close ratio because I outsell you. I don't do a deep clean test the first time in, so I'm not really losing any money like a pop gun thing. We dust the baseboards, no wet wiping. If they want them wet wiped, then we charge them based on a periodic task charging sheet. So if they say, oh, well, you know, that's good, but I'd really still like my baseboards wet wiped, say, great, we will do that. The additional charge for that will be this. Then we'll still start the task at the second visit since they're weekly or biweekly. We do the periodic task starting at the second visit, and the script will tell them it's because it takes a little longer just to get your house in shape on the first visit. We perform one each visit of the ones they choose, and then we start them all over again. Homes are cleaner than your competitors' homes after a year, I will guarantee you, because you're going to deep clean that home the first time in, and then you're never going to wet wipe those baseboards again. And what's going to happen, partly because you don't want to go in 6 months when you say, hey, they're starting to look a little dingy, even though you dust them every time. If you do not wet wipe baseboards at least 3 to 4 times a year, in 10 years when you go to sell the house, even though they've been dusted every time, you will have to paint those baseboards. If they have been wet wiped 3 to 4 times a year, you will not have to paint those baseboards. That is huge, and particularly huge in getting that client to take you with them to the next house. Many people say, oh, so-and-so moved, one of their clients moved. Well, where'd they move to? I mean, unless they're moving out of the city, and lots of people are just moving. People love to move from house to house. I don't get that, it's so pricey. But people love to move from house to house. It means that they are getting a different cleaning service where they're moving to. Why didn't they take you? Probably because they had to repaint the baseboards when they've been paying a cleaning service to clean their house for the last 10 years. So your houses will stay cleaner. You aren't going to back to that client in 6 months and say, or as I was saying, the baseboards look dingy, and you don't want to say, so we think we should wet wipe your baseboards, and they're going to go, well, fine, go ahead and do that. Thanks for another thing. And you're going to go, well, that will be another $40. And they're going to go, what? I'm already paying you $100,000 in 20 years to keep my house clean, and now you want more money? Think about it. And this you can advertise as an added value, and it will sell. You don't want to tell people there's no first time in charge. You don't want to say anything about prices. If you tell people that for weekly and biweekly clients in advertising, there is no first time charge, you then will get stiffed. People will call up and say, you'll say, how often do you want to clean? They're going to say weekly because they don't want the first time in charge. If people call up and the first thing out of your mouth is, do you want weekly or biweekly, and there's been no advertising preceding this, they're not going to know, do you want repeat or one time? They're not going to know there's any advantage to them to lie at this point in time because it's the first thing out of your mouth. So people are very honest. I rarely got stiffed with somebody who said repeat and didn't really want it repeat as long as we did a good job. So this is why selling this way sells, and this is why selling this way makes sense. This is how we got 754 repeat clients, because our attrition rate was too high to make me happy, but certainly not as high as many companies, because we kept our houses very, very clean year after year after year by cycling through periodic tasks. The price sheet you're looking at for me doesn't include the periodic tasks. That's included in the 800 square feet per hour efficiency, because if you follow core and the process, you will be able to do periodic tasks on a repeat basis in these homes for that amount of time. Again, wet wiping the baseboards is a wipe down because you do it once every 3 months. Okay, so let's go through the script.